that's one of the reasons I'm super jazzed to have Cory on the show, and we've got Coach, who's my wife Sandra. What's up, everybody?
Hey, Cory.
So if you're just tuning in, we're in Ridge Runner, California. We're doing a little tasting, and this really is such beautiful because our friend Cory is a sommelier, and Cory, this you're down in Rio, is that right?
That's correct.
Beautiful, beautiful. So if you guys know the show, we cover all things AI and also tech for good. And today we're going to get a chance to talk a little bit about the science of wine and some pretty fun history of Ridge as well. So Cory, let's jump right into it. There's some pretty big,
Well,
some exciting.
first of all, if it's Ridge, I'm a big fan of Ridge. I know Ridge Cabernet. I've probably consumed over 100 bottles of Ridge, and I've probably sold thousands of bottles when I was at Mastro's Steakhouse. So very familiar with Ridge. I recall their Zinfandel program as well. And if we're getting into the science, we have to talk about resveratrol, which is only found in red wine and is one of the most healthy components in the world for you. But yeah, Ridge Zin, Ridge, yeah, you're in the right place.
Excellent,
Oh, wow.
excellent. Well, we're clearly in good company, so stoked to have you join us here. Jumping right into the some of the big AI news. Cory, I'm gonna share a couple of headlines and then pick which one that tickles your fancy. So there was the Anthropic settlement, and I think it was $1 trillion that they were set to have been almost on the hook for, but they settled. So the settlement was with the authors that accused the company of using copyrighted text. And I guess I'm curious what your take is, Cory. When is it if information or data is fed into a model and then recreated and then brought to the user, is that the same thing as being being copied, or is it actually new proprietary information? How are you thinking about these two separate things here?
It has to be new and proprietary, and I think it's easy for people to point to kind of infringements and trying to flex any legalese muscles that might exist yet. But the reality is that every book written was inspired by the books that the author wrote previously. It was
Hmm.
inspired by the data around them, right? The things that happened to them in their external world, just like these models, right? And I'm big into the AI music scene, but the AI music, it is trained on almost all the music that any real musician would have heard as well. And it knows how to put together the notes and the scales and do beat drops in the right places because it's trained on what's worked. However, virtually all the music I hear coming out of AI is unique. And so right, for artists to say that because you put a few words together, because you use the same melodic hook that they used 8 years ago, they're only able to make that claim because it was a machine, whereas bands are covering each other all day long, and bands are coming up with the same melody without even knowing it, or they were both inspired by a Weezer album they listened to 30 years ago. And right, so to me, this is none of this is going to hold water. It does give me a slight, you know it raises an eyebrow that people are even settling. And trillion dollars is a real number, but it's like,
Like
yeah,
that's monopoly money. Also, even if you look at Stairway to Heaven, that riff was supposedly had been lifted from something else, but inspiration and creativity, it's like it's kind of it's a moving it's a moving target or fine line between these two, how we define them.
yeah. And it's, to be clear, I've been a musician since the 80s. I play piano, I play bass, I play guitar, I sing, I write songs. I've cut over 100 records, right? I've toured. Um, and so I understand musicians that kind of get up in arms about this, but how many people have been sampled before and the samples weren't clear? You change one note in Queen and now you use it for, Ice Ice Baby. And so this is just the way that the industry works. And I'd argue the same thing with the literary industry. And I've now put out, between my three newsletters, I put out about 300 issues of newsletters. We had a 500,000 subscribers on my first. I'm almost at a 250,000 on my second.
Wow.
So I've put out a ton of original writing, right? And if anybody doesn't think that AI has trained on that, and if people are writing newsletters that look and sound a lot like mine now because they hit, a couple buttons after putting a prompt into one of these engines, they're crazy. And so as a musician and as a writer, I'll say, I don't care. I'm
Sure.
glad. I hope I'm inspiring, some type of creative, output from others. And I love that we're all collectively training this model. And I even point at things like the Akashic record to say this is all coming from something anywhere or
Mm,
anyway.
yeah, that kind of gets into the philosophical, and it rings true because you are definitely on the forefront of this innovative wave. And what's the quote? It's like, if you're going to try to stand in front of innovation, you'll get run over. So it's from a long-term perspective, like, we on one hand, we want to support creatives and make sure that they're taken care of and compensated for their intellectual property. But on the other hand, these models do feel brand new, and I know that it's important for China. In fact, China has a pretty ambitious roadmap. They're excelling integration across a lot of major sectors. They've got a really strong push by 2030. We've talked about this in prior shows, Cory, where it does feel like there's a national security element, but then there's also an important element of collaboration. So I think we had talked about the two examples of the farmers. Oh yeah, of course, of course. Maybe we could do some quick introductions. Koji, did you want to share a little bit about yourself real briefly here?
Oh, sure, sure. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah. Thank you,
pretty
Sandra.
sudden.
Thank you.
No. Sorry to interrupt,
No,
Corey.
no, it's all good.
I'm Koji. I'm from Japan, and I work for Otsuka, which is the Japanese, 14 billion total healthcare company, and I'm in the, director of innovation, especially on the nutraceutical business side. And yeah, like Ridge Winery is one of our, group, and we are also really focusing on the the social issues about the climate
Mm,
change and aging society, and also especially for the women's health.
mm.
So Nature Made is one of our brands. So like that's our, yeah.
We can give a little bit of brief of what we have here.
Let's do that towards the end, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Great. And Sandra, did you want to do a quick introduction? I know you've had a chance to chat with Cory in the past.
Hi, Cory. So I'm running the events for Silicon Zombies and Ageless. So we are gonna have an amazing event on October 10 with a lot of biotech and wellness and longevity.
Yeah, very excited for that. Just to dive back into the programming, China's ambitious roadmap by 2030. That seems to be a pretty important element from a global perspective. And then, of course, there's AI micro businesses, where it seems like we can do a lot more with a lot less. So that seems to be having a unique impact. And then Nano Banana. So you probably have tried Google's new image generation, which originally came out on was it LLM Arena, but they called it Nano Banana, which is kind of a unique play. But now it's officially Gemini's 2.5 Flash. So between the China's ambitious roadmap, the new proliferation of micro businesses and Nano Banana, which one of those three kind of tickles you the most, Cory?
Well, I think I'll try to postulate a fourth one because I think a major headline was just kind of passed under the radar. But briefly, I'll say you were seeing a lot of headlines that Nano Banana, 2.5 Flash is going to kill Photoshop. I think it's the most capable image editing AI that I've seen yet. I'm impressed. What I will say is that for people that are impressed by that, the next few weeks you're going to see some new stuff out of Google that will blow everyone's mind.
Wow.
This
Also in the
is
generation space, or something else?
there's I don't know what I can say, so I'm just going to say you're going to see some new tools from Google very soon.
Okay.
That are all on the level. I will say that 2.5 Flash is probably the best image generator and image editor that I've seen in the AI space. That's the caliber of everything you're about to see coming out of Google, and there are
Wow.
some surprises.
Wow.
But and then with the micro AI and the micro businesses, Nick, we were talking a lot about micro SaaS lately, but where this is headed within months is that people will just be able to think or talk about whatever kind of software they want, and it'll just exist for them to use or sell as long as they want, and then it's gone. So if you want DocuSign, just create. I need an app that lets people digitally sign documents. It puts it on the blockchain, and it will just exist for you to use, and you can keep using it or sell it, or it'll go away. So like that's just it, that's a small stepping stone.
Sure.
I believe that we've now seen about 7 labs exhibit both at least baby AGI and super intelligence. But so the headline that I saw, Mustafa Suleiman, and now we're seeing Demis Hassabis and others as well, but start to use this term that's been in our circle for some time, which is seemingly conscious AI. And we're starting to see more and more of this seemingly conscious AI. And Mustafa Suleiman was just interviewed by Stephen, the Entrepreneur's Diary, and he has a lot of anxiety, a lot of guilt right now, and he believes that we may, his words not mine, be fucked. Right? He thinks that there's a point of no return, that we're probably towing the line of. And very likely have actually gone over the line, and just some of the ramifications haven't caught up to us yet. But when the C-suite, right, when the $1 trillion budget guys that have been in all of the the rooms and the labs for decades are starting to use phraseology like seemingly conscious AI, I do think that it should be a wake-up call for most people that are still living in this world where they think AGI is far off, and they think that systems are capable. I'll give you the other headline, Nick, that we can jam on if you want, but the one that is being completely bastardized. Did you see the MIT study?
I don't believe so. Help us
Oh, so
understand.
this is a viral headline, and so this might actually be where we should jam. Then we should talk about what you guys are sipping. And I'm in the nutraceutical space, and I think we're going to be presenting at the World's Fair with the Japanese royal family in a few months. Actually, with Dr. Alex Kahana. Nick,
Kahana, excellent.
yeah. He said they want him to come speak, and so he wants me to come. It's over in Japan, and so. But the MIT headline, they just released a paper, and so all the headlines you're seeing everywhere is that MIT reports that 95% of AI deployments, enterprise deployments, fail.
Right, they're not working. That's right. I did see that. Yeah.
And so if you read one line further, what it looks like it says, and it does say this in the paper, is that out of 300 pilots that they studied, only 5% showed immediate attributable positive P&L implications. In other words, 5%, so 15 out of 300, they put in the AI tools, and pretty much right away the P&L became more profitable, right? The company performed better. So 95% of companies didn't. And so that was the headline. People go, see, AI doesn't work. Well, where right? You probably see where this is going. What you would read if you read the paper is that they're saying the intelligence is so great and it's capable of anything they need, but the people don't know how to use it. They're saying that the error is, in these 95% of the cases, people are told to use AI and they don't know how to use it. Right? All of a sudden, everyone
push back a little bit. Wouldn't it make sense that if these things were seemingly sentient and conscious, that the user could ask the model how best to use it and be coached to use it? I mean, I guess I'd be kind of curious where these data points are coming from the study at MIT.
Well, so Nick, you're, because I have a company in the seemingly conscious space, I can answer to that very, very specifically. But you really did a great job making my point, because that is what you should do. And that is what someone that's smart, like probably all 4 of us, right? We do ask the AI how to use itself. And I've said for 4 years, AI is its own instruction manual. It's the first tool ever that will just tell you how to use it if you ask. But what I'm understanding is 95% of people don't know how to ask for help, and they don't know how to say, right? And so this user behavior is the problem. And this is going to sound somewhat condescending, and I don't hold back any punches. It is what it is, but it feels as though a lot of people aren't smart enough for this type of intelligence, right? I think you do need to have a level of intelligence to fully leverage intelligence like we're seeing right now. Right, and so again, it's not an indictment. It's, you know, it's no one's fault if they're smarter or not as smart as other people. But I think humanity needs to uh, step up to this intelligence, to this
Wow.
moment, if we're going to make it work for us. Would be
Yeah,
my
I'm
contention.
really glad you said that, Cory, because and I have no shame in sharing that when I don't understand a concept, or if I'm trying to put two concepts together, I'll ask the model, put this into bullet points or simplify it to me, for me in a way that is going to be just really really easy to grok or understand. Have you guys had like a similar approach when you're talking to ChatGPT?
Mhm.
Sandra, I know that your first
I-
language is Spanish, so you learn English in a record speed. What are your thoughts?
but I feel like when I get to United States, my English was barely, let's say, 20%.
Hmm.
So I was more afraid to talk with people or jump in a call or write an email. And using the technology right now is being amazing because I'm been learning. My English is getting improved because of that tool.
Mm,
Because I put some prompt and say, hey, this is my idea. How can I write this correctly? They teach me, I read, I learn. So it's like a teaching me at the same time. So it's been a beautiful, like, I don't know what I can do without, like,
yeah,
being in this country
yeah.
that you have
It,
to
it,
start
it
from.
does seem to be an argument against the whole AI is making us stupid kind of a thread.
No, you can learn. You
Yeah.
can learn. Not like it's not like put your lazy mind and put like, okay, do this for me. No, you
Mm.
get the answer, you learn,
Yeah.
you see, oh, this is a great idea.
Yeah.
So you like kind of like constantly feeding
Uh,
yourself with that tool. What do you
I
think?
like that.
Yeah, I like it. Like I'm using it as a tool as like, just a search or
Oh.
like analytics, but at the same time, like, I get some, brainstorming ideas from those like AIs. But that's really good. But at the same time, like I realize like Corey mentions, like it's still difficult for me to utilize like those tools
Yeah.
because like I think like I'm not using 100% well
Yeah.
about
Sure.
those ChatGPT or Copilot.
How do
So
you think technology can improve that for you? Like
I think it's more about like emotional connections.
Mm.
Like if the AI kind of have those sense of what people are emotionally thinking, then I think there will be the gaps will be filled
Hey,
more. Yeah.
Koji, what Nick may or may not have told you is that I'm the CEO of an AI company called Loving is AI, where we spent the last year and a half training and weighting our models on empathy and love. We've trained it on what love means in the Japanese culture, the Chinese culture, the Indian culture, the Vedic texts. We've gone through and we've attributed many thousands and probably millions of data points around what love is, why it matters, what it means in different scenarios.
Sorry,
And
what
then
about Latina culture?
Wow,
It-
viticulture. I've done
no,
things in the
Latino,
wine meets blockchain space.
Latino culture.
South America, Latina culture.
Oh, I was hearing viticulture, Latino culture. I'm down here in Rio de Janeiro, so we're seeing a lot.
Obrigado, obrigado.
Obrigado, sim. Uh, but what I would say is it can do a lot for a lot of cultures. Where I'm most hyper cognizant right now, we've been working on AI for Africa, because
Mhm.
what we find is that a lot of cultures, maybe it's even the same for Japan or for Mexico, they feel a little left out when they use tools like ChatGPT because it's designed for a Western way of thinking.
I
And
see.
so, right, like in Africa, if you ask them about a type of food, right, they default to like European continental food. They don't know about the local ingredients and dishes, and sometimes they're trained on Wikipedia pages and things, but anyone's been able to put whatever they want on those for years. But what we're doing with this loving intelligence, Koji, because you're absolutely right, is we've understood that there needs to be some mutual understanding between these machines and humans, right? Because we built them, we trained them, we now work them to the bone.
Mm.
But really, society and humankind hasn't taken time, other than computer scientists, to understand the technology. and now we expect it to understand us, and we almost expect it to, you know, be able to understand our moods and the why behind the why. And it's, you know,
Mm.
people get really, really demanding when it comes to technology, especially if they're paying for it. And so
I
there's
the why behind the why. We're
Mm.
gonna use that as the zombies title when you
and
come to the
also
US.
and also I want to add something. When this movement of like ChatGPT start, people, because not everybody use it like a like normalized,
Yeah,
people was at the beginning a little bit shame about using those tools.
that's right.
Mm.
Because when, let's say, you are in your office, you are like, oh my god, I need to hit in this tab that is ChatGPT. So my boss is not like, oh, you're doing your job through ChatGPT. So it's like now that it's normalized, everybody use it,
Yeah.
and it's like
Mm.
okay, it's okay to
You know,
like
our
society approve
a friend
that
of
you use it.
ours runs a hotel with over 500 rooms and was able to do a huge project. He said that would have taken half the day, and it did it
Was
inside of
driving.
like
He was driving.
that's right. He was driving. He was talking to ChatGPT and did this
It's
like
like, oh my god, he make the tab that I needed, and then I arrived to the job with the task done.
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with 1 or 2 hours doing that.
Cory, why do you think that has been like some shame around using tools to become more efficient at our jobs? I mean, I don't think that's really existed in historically, right? Using technology.
Well, you know, people always think of it as kind of like the easy way out. So I think especially people that have hours billable or get paid by the hour, or people that are project based, if someone's paying me $1,000 an hour to do something and I'm going to bill them, you know, for 20 hours, they want to see me sweating and cursing, and right, like they want to really see me earn that 20K, right? But if I
Let's start in tears. Yeah,
and
yeah,
you know, if I can just go in and put a couple of prompts, and it gives me that output. Like literally I just got home minutes before we went live, and so I was on an Uber from where I was coming from my neighborhood, about 20-minute drive in the Uber, right? And I had a message. One of my companies had a project and they were wanting me to approve a budget, and it was close to a 5-figure budget, right?
Mm.
And I, in the Uber on the way here, you know, the project completed as I was coming up in my elevator. Um, I did it, right. So save the company $8,500 in 20 minutes,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
And it's right,
Yep.
and this is, but again, it's like, can anyone go and just use an AI tool to do what I did? Not at all. You need to know what tool is. You need to know how to ask it. I know what data to provide for it. Someone that was trying to do it flying solo would probably never have achieved the results I got in 20 minutes. So again, back to the hours billable. Okay, yeah, this would take me 20 hours without AI. It takes me 20 seconds with AI, but it took me 20 years, right? And probably $200,000 to get to where I can come in and give it that prompt and get that result that no one else on your team could. So it really does come back to like humans just being competent. And Koji, I do want to speak to something that you said because I think it's appropriate. Um, it's not that people that don't know how to use AI well aren't smart. You're absolutely right. There's some really smart people that don't know how to use AI well. It is a skill set and it is a way of thinking. And a lot of people that are more analytical, or a lot of people that are more creative, or a lot of people, frankly, that are used to being told what to do and having accountability and being given kind of step by step, it's very different, right? And it's not as empowering, and it does make things very formulaic. And you're going to start to see companies, you know, quarterly reports that are clearly written by AI. It's going to start off and say, "Let's all talk about," and you're like, "Well, nobody says that," right? Like, especially not in a quarter. So, but things are just changing, right?
Yeah.
And people do like not being smart when it comes to AI, perfectly fine. But
Sure.
when someone realizes that, what's not fine is to remain in that ignorance and say, "Oh, okay, I'm not going to figure this out." Because okay, great. If you're independently wealthy and or you don't have needs, then you can willfully refrain and abstain from using these tools. But anyone that's going to need to continue to drive revenue or continue to, you know, generate deliverables that they'll be paid for, need to embrace these tools.
And
And
That's a really good point, and it's hitting science as well. You mentioned Demis from DeepMind. DeepMind just released an AI weather model that accurately forecasted Hurricane Aaron's track and intensity, and this seems to be kind of like one of the first, like a big unlock, a part of DeepMind's experimental weather lab initiative. So maybe there could be positive downstream effects, actually saving lives as well.
Oh, I just was talking to a guy today that did what he considers to be a weather, like a weather type technology, but instead of for weather, it's for bombs. And so he's been in the refugee space. He was doing a lot of work in Turkey and in Syria, and then they're now, his company's relatively massive, but they're doing a lot in the Ukraine area. And but so they're able to detect bombs by using things like sentiment and using satellites to find anomalous activity, or okay, this place always has industrial machinery, but they don't ever have everything move at once in this direction. And so sometimes it's like 3 seconds, 5 seconds is all you need. And so it really is, but when we think about weather, or we think about bombs, or we think about anything, it's really important for people to understand all AI does is machine learning, is predicts the next token, right? It predicts the next letter, predicts the next word, projects the next whatever. So
or whatever.
it's just getting really good at pattern matching and knowing what's going to come next. So now you extrapolate that to weather, you extrapolate that to warfare, disease, right? Coach, what you guys are doing with everything that you're doing, frankly, right? But it's being able to forecast things like user sentiment, user behavior. I often say that we're moving from the attention economy to the intention economy, where knowing what's coming and what's going to be needed has massive implications, whether it's last mile delivery, whether it's drug testing, and it just the implications are endless.
Yeah, and it is going to require a hellacious amount of energy and compute. In fact, Meta has a $50 billion project in Louisiana for a super data center, and that seems to be the trend, right? With a lot of these hyperscalers. In fact, it was kind of interesting. Just near us in Santa Clara, there was some rolling blackouts that ended up impacting homes, but the data centers were spared. So I mean, that is weird to.
Well, hold on. They weren't spared. I know a thing or two about data centers. I can tell you, I was in Twitch in Vegas and things of this nature. They are given their own. They have their own
Grid.
constitutions. They're their own municipalities, and so they get all access to not only all power but all gasoline. So at Twitch in Las Vegas, if there's an entire blackout or a nuclear event, no one can get gas for their cars or their generators. Only Twitch has access to all of the gas to keep their generators backed up, because they have all of the data from Google and Meta and Amazon and AWS Cloud, and so they're deemed essential. And so people will die. If people are dying because there's no power, they will just die rather than compromise the data. But so that's why they were spared.
Yeah, it is. I guess it's using the word spared is not necessarily fair, because if they're operating on their own independent grid, but it is strange to see homes without power right next to data centers with power. And I guess it's just kind of fundamentally comes down to an economics decision, and shifting over to the beautiful. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Just ask one question.
Yeah,
to
please,
Cory.
please.
So like I think you brought up like a AI prediction part, and this prediction like is based on, like, for example, the past data, and I feel like there's still a gap between like the accuracy of the prediction. So for example, in terms of the wellness side, there's so many technologies, for the preventions, or like after a treatment for diseases, but all of a sudden, people who care about health gets cancer or diabetes. So like, I don't know, like I want to understand like why the technology has been advanced, but at the same time those prediction has still like a gap and accuracy. Like if you have any thoughts on that point, that would be very
what we see at like Siemens Healthineers and all of these multi-billion-dollar companies in the healthcare space is that their rich data is pretty much spot on anymore. right? So a lot of these preventative care, a lot of these, we see stuff coming out of Google DeepMind's AlphaFold. We see a lot in the drug space, and the data is pretty remarkably good anymore. The forecasting, the analytics, the rich data now, right? When it's labeled properly, and the clean data is incredibly valuable when it comes to forecasting and predicting. The wild card in what I see, at least in my assessment, is the human, right? So I'll give you an example. There was a guy named Dr. Sabi, and he was murdered in Venezuela some years ago. But the Supreme Court wanted to lock him up in the 90s because he said he could cure cancer and he said he could cure AIDS. And they said it's illegal to say that. There's no cure for cancer. There's no cure for AIDS. And so we're going to throw you in jail. And so he ran it up. He was doing multi-millions of dollars in revenue out of his Los Angeles office. And so he was able to fight it up to the Supreme Court. And so it made it to the Supreme Court. And they said, listen, you need to provide no fewer than 10 people that can prove that you cured their AIDS and or cancer. And they gave him a court date, and they said, if you can't, then you're going to jail, right? This is fraudulent marketing. So the day of his trial, hundreds of people were there, including Magic Johnson, who had his proof that Dr. Sabi cured him of AIDS, and Michael Jackson, who was still alive at the time, who proved that Dr. Sabi cured him of his cancer. And right, there were so many people that they couldn't all fit into the courtroom. And so the judge said you need to have 10 people, and he brought closer to 1,000 people, and every single one of them, right? It had official paperwork. His last name was Sebi. You can look him up. But his way to beat cancer, he said cancer can only live in an acidic body, so you need a basic alkaline baseline, right? And the way to do that is you don't eat any bleached foods, no processed foods. You eat no meat. Everything you eat needs to be living. It needs to, right? And then there's no alcohol, and then if you do all of that, then these herbal blends that he has at his company can unequivocally kill your cancer, kill your anything, right? And if you have it, it'll be gone. If you don't have it, you'll never get it. But 99 point whatever percent of humans say, I'd rather eat meat and drink soda and smoke a cigarette and get cancer, right? So the data is there, right? It's the people that say there's been no cure. Well, there is a cure, right? But everything that goes into it, people just there's a tolerance, and then there's a no-go zone. Right. I was given at the beginning of the pandemic, I was given less than 6 months to live myself. And I had a very bad liver disease. I was told I was going jaundice. I was told that there was a cure, but it cost $250,000. And I wasn't liquid. This was 2019, 2020. It wasn't feasible, right? I couldn't just go and cash in some stocks and go buy this pill. But so I was diligent, and I got very fortunate, and I found a group, and I was able to get the medicine. And as soon as I was told I was able to get the medicine, it was a new lease on life, right?
Wow.
And the doctors had given me, they said zero chance I was going to survive, right? And this medicine is the only thing that did cure me. But I had to go vegan, no alcohol. And I'm a drinker, no alcohol. And I had to go vegan, and there were some other things, if I recall. And I had to take these pills X amount of times a day on the hour and whatever it was. And I never once thought about it. It's okay, I don't eat meat. I don't drink alcohol. I take these pills, right? And now it's been 5 years, and I'm still alive, and my liver's great, and my liver functions are back to normal. And it's wasn't just eating vegan, right? If I had just eat vegan, I would have died. It was this medicine, and I'm incredibly grateful to God and the universe, and there are people involved in all of that as well. But the reality is, I did need to do that, and I did it because for me, I chose that I wanted to live to see 50, and now I'm getting closer. So I will. I know that was a bit of a diatribe, but it's like I do think a lot of the data is there, but what do people do with it, right?
Yeah, I'm glad. We're so glad that that worked out in a beautiful way, Cory, and so glad you're still with us. It does also feel like an access thing. So the technology can be there, the therapeutics can be there, but initially these innovations are very expensive. Like, do you remember when the cell phone first came out?
Right.
Like $10,000-$15,000 for a big brick like this, and now it's democratized and everybody's got access. So
they're free. The government gives them away on the corner.
Yeah, that's right. And so and soon enough it'll be like the brain computer interfaces, right? So, but I do like the idea of once these technologies are pioneered through science and research and innovation, they become available to everybody, and that does seem like a more like a better direction from an accessibility perspective. So, and I know that you had to cut out alcohol, Cory, but even in moderation, a little bit's okay, and we're fortunate to be.
Wine is always good for your heart.
That's right, and
wine's good for everything. It reduces inflammation, it reduces stress, it makes your blood flow better, and I'm back as soon as they told me my liver could handle it. I'm back onto my regimen. I heard a very smart guy the other day talking on one of the shows. I think it was Bill Maher. Actually, it was Bill Maher. It was Overtime with Bill Maher, and a very smart doctor. And he was saying, really the only way to live a very healthy life is to refrain from alcohol. He said, but in moderation, alcohol can be okay. And when I heard him say that, I'm thinking, okay, I know I'm not going to be what he considers moderate, but it's fine, right? So then he said, humans can be healthy and have up to 2 drinks, right? And I was kind of thinking like, well, 2 drinks a day is a little low. But then he said per week, and my head almost.
So does that mean if you take your 2 drinks and you take a couple weeks and you put them all in the same afternoon, does that work? Or
Like, okay, this is my doses for the next 2.
yeah, or 1 glass of wine, but it's just a really big glass.
Well, so my first tech company, Nick, before the one I started that did something, was called theswirler.com, and we reviewed hundreds of wines, including Ridge, and I wrote about all the different vintners and winemakers and the terroir, and it was fun. I wrote through like all my tasting notes and what it would pair with, and the algorithm we put together. This would have been 2000, probably 11 or 12, was tell it what your budget is, tell it what you're going to eat or what you're going to be doing, and it makes a recommendation. So I want a bottle under $50. I'm going to be having prime rib with, right? And we never made money with the site. We just kept getting hacked by Russia and there were a couple other places. We just kept getting hacked before we made money. But the one thing that I did, and I still have them to this day, and I love them, is I hand drew these cartoons, and I call them wine tunes. So I've got like a dozen hand-drawn wine cartoons, and one of them is a picture of a guy sitting in his chair holding a wine glass that's bigger than his head, right? This guy have 5 liters, and he said, well, my doctor told me I could only have 1 glass a day, so
yes.
Here we are.
Cory, can we turn that into an NFT? I feel like that'd be a big hit.
Absolutely.
All right, so just to dive into our last segment here, just really grateful for the folks at Ridge and Coach. You've hosted us a handful of times, and it's always such a beautiful experience. So maybe you could share a little bit about the history of Ridge and about some of the team that you get to work for. I think it's especially relevant given the fact that the founders were scientists. So like the science of delicious wines is kind of that.
3 Valleys.
Yeah, exactly. And the tech for good that Cory's championing with his company. So please, Cory, share a little bit with us, Koji.
Sure. So Ridge Winery was developed in 1959 with 3 Stanford doctor scientists.
Oh, okay.
And originally the California, they didn't have any things that you can grow grapes for a winery, but based on those back on the science, they started to do some research about what's the soil components and those kind of things, and by doing that they were able to kind of grow the California based soil with grape and develop the first the Montebello.
Yeah,
which is based in the
award-winning.
That's
right.
Yeah, so they won
100 point once, I think. Yeah, the Montebello, that sub-AVA is beautiful.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah.
That's a fantastic story too, just because it shows that the Californians really did have a #1 world-class wine. And what was
Stag's Leap did that too at the Bordeaux tasting, and it held up 20 years later. Yeah, Napa and Cali is on their years is better in Bordeaux.
Yep. So yeah, the Montebello won in 1976.
Okay.
They beat the French, wine, and also in 2006 and 2016.
So this winery is the inspiration for Bottle Shock, which is a super famous wine that, of course, had beat the French twice, several times. And in fact, Cory, you probably have some interesting insight into the dynamics between the French and American wines, specifically California wines, being a sommelier. So, do you want to give us a sample or a taste test on what you're seeing?
Well, the terroirs are relatively different. And so you look at the entire ecosystem, what are the bugs, right? What San Francisco gets that beautiful, beautiful morning fog that rolls in, and that's amazing for the grapes. But it's what I find in Napa and Sonoma and right, a lot of the regions in Cali is, at least for me with my refined palate, I mostly like the high altitude grapes, right? And same thing with here in South America, the Malbecs, right? There's a pot. It was like the high altitude stuff for me. That's really where my palate is.
Mm.
And Ridge has some great mountain vineyards, and I think actually that's what it's named after. I think the Ridge is the mountain ridge, right? The Bordeaux stuff is a lot lower, right? And so it's interesting. You also look at the different oaks that they use, the American limousine oak and the French oak, and it's so many things go into this. And then I say that to say this. The one thing that I don't think a lot of people took into consideration was that palates change, right? Our own individual palates change over our life, and then collective palates change. And so we look at what was de moda in the 50s and 60s, and when people really liked these Burgundian wines and these Bordeaux wines, and right at first it was the more Merlot based, and then it was the more Cabernet Sauvignon based. Then by the time you bring everything, and Ridge was one of the pioneers, but brought everything and the graftings and tried to plant the different noble grapes in the soil, and they kept failing and failing. What I think, and it's going to sound silly, is not scientific. I think what you're really ending up tasting in the Napa wines, especially in that 80s and 90s, was resilience. I think that's what happens when you introduce, certain new environments, certain new, um, leverage points. And so, if anything, I think the French wine just kind of stayed the same. And I think the Napa was just the same, but a little different. And
Hmm.
typically, and we'll find this as the human experience becomes more digital, and the human handmade things become even more of a premium and even more sought after. But we always do want something new. Right? So it doesn't matter if your Chateau Lafite is exactly the same every year. Your Petrus is identical, and you love this amazing portfolio that is unwavering. And then someone comes, and their Stag's Leap tastes a little bit like a red bell pepper, and you go, hey, that's pretty cool, right? Because and all of a sudden, right, this culture that's been hundreds of years in France. I think another great example actually comes out of Japan. Japanese whiskey, and some of it can be called Scotch. Probably the best whiskey in the world anymore, right? And it's, at first people were mad. They go, "Hey, you can't call it Scotch. It's not from Scotland." And you say, "Well, yeah, it is. There's a master distiller from Scotland, and they used water from Scotland and the Scottish peat." So, right, but then they just took it, and my God, some of the, I don't think I have any Japanese whiskey, but here I should change that. I'll go get some kabuki.
That's a
Right, but
whole new level of craftsmanship, and you probably know a little bit more about the process, Cory. But it's interesting when you get the really hot weather during the day and the really cool nights. It's that range that ends up giving a lot of dynamic flavors to the grapes as well. In fact, you know what? I do want to take us on a quick journey over here to take a peek at these
wow.
beautiful grapes right here. Check these bad boys out. Isn't that gorgeous? Yeah, I
Oh,
almost want
amazing.
to take a couple. Maybe I'll steal some later. Don't tell me. So, Coach, yeah, tell us a little bit more about some of the cool projects that you guys are working on with Otsuka as well, if you could.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, first of all, like Otsuka and Ridge become like as a same company
Yeah.
in 1986, because basically the Ridge was based on science, and they care about the quality so those kind of philosophy and
Yeah.
approach really fit with Ridge Winery. So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
why.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, well, here, let me pour you a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
here, right? The nice
Thank
full
you.
glass.
Next time, Cory.
Get to the last drop.
Yeah. But like we're like a healthcare company with like pharmaceutical business and nutraceutical business, and within nutraceutical business we have like three focus areas, approaching the social issues. One is the climate change,
Mm,
and the second one is the like aging society,
mm.
and the third one is the woman's health. And in terms of the climate change, this is the beginning of Pocari Sweat.
Wow.
And this is a
this is a
drinkable
new product.
Well, it's a traditional. It launched in 1980 in Japan as a drinkable IV solution.
Wow.
Because Otsuka started as a first like Asia IV solution. So how can we convert that and make it into the healthier people, not just the patient? So that's why like Pocari Sweat was born. And it's becoming a 1 billion sales company, especially in the Asia, but now entering into the US market. So this is really exciting. And in terms of the aging area, skin health,
Yeah.
not just the inside your body and also mental, but also like between the skin health is really important part.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
why like it's not a cosmetic approach. It's more about cosmetic
Yeah,
and
it's beautiful.
medicine.
Can I unbox this
Yeah,
while you're
Sandra
talking about
loves
it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I
cool.
love it.
Yeah, and this
Not
this
expecting
brand
that.
is really approaching into the inside of your skin to
Yeah.
kind of increase your skin turnover.
Okay.
So like as you age, that skin turnover decreases. So
This is our first unboxing that we've ever done on the show. It's very
yeah, this
exciting.
name is Sakurai, and
Sakura.
inspired by the cherry blossom, and
Oh,
but
nice.
this is based on really back
Beautiful.
on science. So
beautiful.
yeah, the
Well,
Cory.
Koji, I'm sure you also know the best thing for skin and for anti-aging is resveratrol, which is a compound only found in the skin and seeds of red grapes. So you probably even have resveratrol in some of your anti-aging and skin products, but being at Ridge and owning Ridge, you're so well positioned for that as well. And frankly, people that drink red wine every day, that other doctor be damned, twice a week, no. Every day, yes.
Cory, I want Cory to come check out the winery
For
here.
sure, yeah.
I love
After this.
We'll send the chopper, Cory.
Well, I do plan on getting up to the States soon. I've got a number of things that I need to tend to, and I would love to get to SF.
Perfect. We'll roll out the red carpet for you here. And is there one more thing you wanted to show as well?
Yeah, so this is another skin health skincare, and it's
Let me see.
that the key ingredient inner signal,
Okay.
the key ingredient is the AMP, which is coming from the mother's milk.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I
And
love
yeah, this AMP will
AMP.
really activate to rejuvenate your skin. So yeah.
Excellent.
That's cool.
So basically,
package.
we have kind of a reason, like, from prevention of health, considering about inside your body function as well as skin health, as well as treating a treatment for diseases. So like we
What,
think.
what about the next $1 trillion industry? Gut health, microbiome.
Good point. Yeah. So we have we have a gut health dedicated research institute, and as you mentioned, like gut and also the gut brain axis. There's a
Exactly.
huge connection between that part.
The vagus nerve, I think it's called.
Yep.
Yeah. So gut is the real second brain. We
Literally.
think.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
literally.
Wow.
So yeah,
You take care
basically,
of
if
your
you
gut,
manage your gut, then and also the microbiome flora, then you were able to have more better healthy life, and also mentally as well.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I have a friend named Naveen Jain that's been very successful, and so he's worth billions of dollars. But he started a company that he's been really very excited about called Viome, VIOME, and they're working with the microgut biome, but they have an app that can kind of show you what you should and shouldn't eat and why you're feeling certain ways, and they have supplements to bring it down. I could see them, you know, they're North American, but he's from India. I could see them and you guys doing something big together, because he's been at it for years, but I do think he needs a little bit more muscle and a little bit more science behind him. It's, you know, he's got all the money in the world, but it's, you know, you need to have everything aligned to really make the kind of impact he's looking to do with this product.
Access makes a huge difference. In fact, that's one of the reasons we're really excited to have Otsuka at the Ageless Evolution Summit, which is in 41 days, I think it is. So it's coming up. So we're really excited. We'll have over 600 attendees, a couple dozen family offices, and you know the best and boldest voices in wellness, longevity, biotech, and healthcare. So you know, be sure to get your tickets if for all the listeners here. And in the meantime, cheers to Rich. Thank you guys so much. And Cory, cheers to you, my friend. Great to see you.
You as well. And I could hear from the clink that those are nice Rydell glasses.
Exactly. He's an expert. It tickles all the senses. So, well, Cory, it's been such a treat to have you join us today. Thanks for all the listeners. And be sure to check out for AI Zombies, Wednesdays, 11:30. And big hugs to you all. Thanks again. Have a great week, everybody. Check in. That song is great.